Next week is the finale, my fellow Chibits, if you are unaware. So, everything will be coming to an end. If that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, time will let us know. Because the way this series has been building up since episode 1, like, we kind of probably have a general understanding of what to probably expect from next episode because of the first episode. But how it did, like, a flash forward and we got to see whatever Kutori was going through, like she just jumped off the ship or whatever, it looked like she was killing herself. We have a general understanding of what might happen in next week's episode, and so I'm pretty excited for it, but if that's going to be a good ending or not, I have no idea. There is one thing I do know, however, is that we're probably not going to have all of our questions answered, because with the major info dump of this episode, like there was a lot of important information in this episode. With that type of info dump and world building we got, I just don't believe next week's episode is going to clarify anything we got in this episode. Now, like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a bad thing, because there could be a potential Season 2. I mean, who knows? I don't know how popular this series is right now in Japan, but there is a possibility for a Season 2. So, if we get a Season 2, then we get probably more, questions answered in the next season. However, instead of thinking about that, let's talk about what this episode gave us. And one of the big things is that who is Kutori, or her original personality? Not the Kutori we know throughout this series, but who she came from. Well, apparently, Kutori and all of the fairies came from one single individual. That was probably the biggest revelation of this episode, is that all the fairies are, in fact, from the same person. Just the same person that they're from, their soul was shattered. It's like, imagine this big soul, okay? And this soul is literally shattered into thousands of pieces. It scatters off, and then eventually it's reborn into different people. That's basically what happened, how these fairies came about. So one person is all of these fairies. Now, the question is when some of these fairies start remembering things, like when they start, losing themselves and they start turning into the person they once were, does that necessarily mean that all of them will have the exact same personality? Will they be that little girl that we've seen Kutori constantly see throughout the series, or will the personalities be slightly different, like just because of their viewpoint or whatever? Or maybe the soul fragments from this girl, like when they split off, it's like different parts of her personality. Like some sides could be her compassionate side, some can be her cold side, some parts of the personality could be like her very aggressive side. You understand what I'm getting at. So I wonder if the personalities in the individual fairies, that they'll all be 100% the exact copy of each other, or will they just be distinctively different? I'm very curious about that, and most likely that's not going to be answered in this season of, Suka Suka, which kind of saddens me, because the world building we just got really fascinated me. I was like, oh, this is some good stuff. Like, this is some really good details to some of the characters, the backstory and all that. That's the type of stuff I like when I'm reading a series. Like, if I'm reading a light novel or whatever, and I see something like that, that really gets me interested, and I'm like, holy crap, I can't imagine how the light novel readers were when they got to this point. They're probably freaking out, like, holy crap, finding out that all the fairies are the exact same person or whatever, not really having a general understanding of what, they actually are. For instance, are they all the same person in personality? Are they slightly different? I can already imagine what type of fairies many were thinking of at this point when they were probably reading it in the light novel series. So yeah, I can understand that, and I'm very excited after this episode, but like I said, we're probably not going to get those answers with this anime series, which really sucks. But anyways, though, getting back into some of the world building, though, besides just finding out that Kutori and all the other fairies are from one girl, we also found out that there apparently was gods that wanted to stop humanity, and humanity, they beat the gods. They basically destroyed the gods, killed them, and it made it to where humanity became out of control. And eventually they turned into beasts. They were like, turned into these bioengineered beasts, which we see attacking the world, and that ended the world. So, thanks to the gods not being able to stop humanity, it made it to where humanity turned into this ugly beast, and then that's what we know now, the story of the series. So, I find that very interesting how we got these, creatures called the Visitors, which are apparently immortal gods or whatever, coming to our world, and humanity kind of beat them. And from what I'm assuming when it comes to the little girl, she is also a god, but the only reason why she's still around is because she was immortal, but she was cursed with mortality? That's my understanding of it. Now, I could be wrong here. Now, if I am wrong, correct me in the comments below. I'm completely fine with that. But from my general understanding is that the little girl was one of the gods. She was a child version of them. She came to our world. She got, killed by, one of our main male character's actual friends, came to kill her, and when she was killed, it didn't necessarily kill her. It just put her in a state of mortality. While her body is dead, her soul is still there, which, like I said, was split into different fragments. That's the explanation, or how I understood it when this episode was trying to explain that. So, her body's dead, her original body, but her soul is still there, around. So she was cursed with mortality. So, cool stuff. That was really cool with the world building and all of that. So, curious to where, Suka Suka is going to take that. I mean, like I said, maybe we might get answers next week. Maybe not. We'll see. So, besides all of that, more flags for Kutori. And I'm really getting worried right now because Kutori, she has her entire hair shift from blue and partially red to completely red with barely any blue lines in her hair at all, which just shows that she has almost completely lost herself, and also she barely remembers anything at all. She kind of remembers, but barely remembers anything at all, and for her to be having a conversation with herself like that, like her previous past self, it just shows she's at that point of, like, no return. And you even see William, as he's thinking in his mind, he realizes, like, he's failed already. He's, like, talking within himself, like, I've already failed. He's, making excuses, wondering why he tried so hard to save her or whatever. And he was just very conflicted, very angry with himself, and he realized he failed once again. And, I mean, he actually uses this anger and takes it out on one of the beasts that were about to attack him, which, holy shit, savage. Like, this man pummeled the hell out of this beast, even though he can't actually fight because he's that weak, and this man, his body is ruined, so he can't really fight properly, but he still whooped the fucking beast to death. So, just damn, like, I can't imagine how crazy this man was when he actually could fight, like, when this man wasn't, broken, like a broken shell of his former self. I am very curious to see how strong he was. But anyways, besides that, though, basically, Kutori, she's in a state right now to where she can go either way, and the way this series has been building it up for many, many episodes now, I could definitely see this going an anime original route as well. Like, I could definitely see, like, the next episode ending off on an anime original ending to where Kutori dies or something, and, William, he has to carry on her legacy. I could definitely see that. I could definitely see, him carrying on that legacy of her. But also, we gotta factor this in as well. With the reveal of all of the fairies being from the same person, if Kutori died, yes, she would die. Like, her as a person, she would die. But necessarily, there is a potential possibility for her to come back, if you think about it. Because if her body dies, and all of the souls are technically from the same person, there might be a possibility that he could regain Kutori back. She could come back, or whatever, if she does die. So, we gotta remember, if she does die in the next episode, it doesn't necessarily mean she is gone permanently. Maybe she won't ever be the exact same person, but she's not necessarily completely gone. So that's food for thought right there, especially with how this series just revealed that huge, info dump in this episode. So, yeah. Really good episode. Really, really good episode of Suka Suka this week. It's been a series I've really enjoyed since it aired from this, spring of anime 2017. It's one of those series that I'm just surprised has been so good. I mean, it was recommended to me constantly. I'm just very surprised with how good it has been and how it continues to build up so much until that breaking point. And that's what we're going to be dealing with in next week's episode. So I'm excited. Next week is going to be like the make it or break it episode. It will determine if all of the build-up from the previous episodes were worth it, or if it was worthless. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it's handled, but I have a lot of high expectations. I'm expecting a very good episode. I don't expect everything to be answered, because, like I said, I know, if I'm correct, the light novel is still ongoing, so obviously there's going to be questions unanswered, so that's not going to bug me too much. What will bug me is if all the build-up that we've been getting since episode 1 was literally jack shit. That's what would piss me off completely. So, I hope next week's episode is good. I'm actually excited. Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below, and I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.